Welcome to the Spring 2019 Goldsmith interviews. We have Professor and Practitioner Joan Busquets with us. And firstly, I'd like to congratulate you for a seminal book and exhibition on urban grids. So why don't I begin with asking you, what are the most joyful aspects of living and practicing between Barcelona and Cambridge, Boston?
I think probably because the two realities and the two cities are very interesting, and also because probably I like very much the European practice because I have a lot of experience, and I think European cities are quite interesting, even that, of course, global cities today are always comparing continuously the cities. And then Boston, concretely Cambridge, is a fantastic frame for academic research, and I think that is the reason I like very much the chance to be able to combine both of them.
Yeah. As a practitioner, you have projects all around the globe, and you talk through previous publications about the idea of social urbanism. And so it's interesting for us to know what is your starting points in urban design projects when you practice in different contexts.
Right. I always feel that it's very important that urban projects should be always confronted with the different realities. Even that sometimes we feel, even we talk about North America or Europe or East Asia, we always have to acknowledge that every reality is different. Not only because of the history, because of the culture, because of the political understanding of the situation. This is the way I feel that we have to be prepared to understand different realities and also to propose for the different realities what could be the best for transforming and improving these realities from the perspective of that the people living in that place could be live better, and to consider also how is the long run for this reality.
So in one of the arguments that you make in the book is that there is a recalibration from an urban design master plan to an urban design project. Can you tell us a little bit more about
Right.
it?
I think it's very interesting to understand that our realities can be considered that they have different scales. Many times we have to address, and that's the reason I like it very much, to address what I call the intermediate scale. It's the way that is a fragment of the city, or a fragment of a region. Even that we are confronted with a fragment, it makes a lot of sense to widen up the scope and to look at what happened, what is the reason of the surrounding. But even that we are at the intermediate scale, if we want to make an urban design effective, we have to enter into a micro scale. Because if we are not able to enter into from the intermediate into the architectural or the landscape scale, our schemes can be really very difficult to realize.
Yeah. So there's more participation in some of the local scales?
I think participation is always required. I think we cannot design the city without understanding what the people want and the way that the people can understand what we are proposing. Right. If they can share or they don't like it, and then we have to change our mind. Or I think that's very important. That doesn't mean that I feel that we cannot assume that the people will do the city, otherwise what are we doing in the way? That our social responsibility as designers is the way that we understand what the people need, we confront if that is what they want, and then we should make the best with the budget available. Because I think that's very important, because otherwise the people are not available of understanding if it's better to invest in a school or whether or public space or transportation or more social housing. The way I think we have to offer to say, well, if we do that in the mid-term run, what's going to happen, and what in the long term, what are going to be the advantages.
Right. So I think the exhibition has really shown a understanding of history and the evolution of urban grids.
Right.
And what are the concerns with future development of grids.
Right.
And the overall handbook, the idea of creating a handbook on city design, what is your biggest takeaway that you would want a reader to take? Is it a design manual? Is it a toolkit? Is there
Yeah.
an argument for future?
I think probably what is important after the research, this is an 8 years research done at the GSD
Yeah.
with the students of different, in general, they are master students, but also some DDS. That is a different group of students involved into that. I think for me the most important takeaway is the idea that the regular city, it exists since the beginning.
Yeah.
It is shared by almost all different cultures, which I think is very important, and has a fantastic history. But now what we discovered is that the current way of building the city is back to be regular.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that the city of the future will be regular, but not like it was in the 19th century. The 21st century is asking other things. That's the reason that at the same time that we look at the history, we have to look at what happened today to imagine what could happen tomorrow. Yeah. I think that's the key question. That's the reason also that the book is organized, as you can see. It's organized where history is important, because I feel we cannot design the future without understanding where are we coming from. That's very clear. But at the same time, we have to understand that today we are facing completely different challenges. Yeah. And never before our society, our urban society, is confronted to these challenges. And that, I think, is the reason we have to imagine the city, how it's going to be in the future. Difficult to say, but it seems that we can be sure it's going to be again regular. But not regular like the ideal city of the Renaissance or the Baroque. No, it's going to be different. We can see today with some of the projects that they are the other side of this wall, that the projects tend to be with regularity that allows quite a lot of diversity. Yeah. The buildings tend to be more hybrids. They are not just housing or offices. In a way, these type of things are what happened today. What's going to happen in 30 years? Nobody knows in 30 years. But most probably, if we look at this very long time discourse, you can see that probably a certain level of regularity allows you to make the city quite adaptable to the future. I think this is what we learn.
And you, I mean, this 8-year effort has largely focused on cities in America and Europe and so on. Do you find a handbook for an Asian context where the concept of informality and so on?
Sure. No, I think the Asian are also included, because we put a lot of effort on that. But I feel that even we could see in the book we are mentioning, even in the forms that we can say the evolutive type of city, that sometimes you need to build city with very simple means. Regularity helps a lot the city to evolve in a positive way. It's the way, for me, it's a completely different thing when we're talking about the growing and transforming city than when we're talking about the shanty towns. The shanty towns, they are built without any logics. And then probably shanty towns are very difficult, even that sometimes the shanty towns are lasting 100 years. But they are very difficult to evolve. And I think that's probably what we have to introduce. Regular city doesn't mean city for the rich. And I think one example that we show here is in Senegal, where we discovered that the cities are built also following certain regularity, and the construction is very, very simple. I would say not poor, but very simple in a way.
I think there are very major themes of metrics on sustainability, energy efficiency, and being sensitive to the environment.
Right.
How does one kind of put a metric on cultural values and non-physical layers in urban places?
Right. I think when we did the study in the initial research that we covered 101 cities across the globe, then we discover and we try to understand the logics of that. And then we discover that there are always some cultural values and sometimes religious values that they are embedded into the form of the city. I think that is very important, because it's the way we can understand that this type of main idea of the city also takes into a regular form. And I think that is what is important. When you see the mandala, how the mandala is being put in places, or how the right of the tribes, there are many different ways that you can discover. And I think the book is not paying a lot of attention to that, but enough to say, hey, this is something very important. It's not just a technical device. It's something else. It's a technical device that can have many other meanings. And I think this is what it's about. Meanings and values are essential in our design. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of your work is focused on reprogramming of deindustrialized spaces. And in a context such as Shenzhen in China and so on, how do you think they are tackling the preservation of traditional and modernization of these old and new kind of?
Right. I think this is a very important point because I feel we start discovering now that in Asia, the value of the whole is there.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we feel, and it was the critique, say, well, mainly in China now they are demolishing everything. Well, it was this way probably until 5 or 7 years ago, but now it's changing. Like it was in Europe or in the United States. In Europe, they said it was the World War II that destroyed the cities. No, it's not true. We study, of course. Yeah. Many cities were destroyed, but we did the research in Rotterdam, and we could prove, after the research, that Rotterdam was more destroyed after the war than during the war. The city said, when we present this conclusion, said, okay, probably you're right, but this is politically incorrect. We don't like to hear that. But that was reality. Yeah. Boston was destroyed, the downtown of Boston, there was no war. But it was this idea in a certain moment that said, well, new is good, all is bad. And then in China, you can say the same. But now I can see many cities in China that people say, okay, attention, we can keep the old and we can do the new. And this type of situation, which happen everywhere also, in the States, in Latin America, everywhere. I think this is something that our generation today is paying attention to the new, of course, to the new challenges, but we try to live taking into consideration how the old and what are the reasons and the values of the old fabric and the old buildings. Not only the buildings, but also the group of buildings, what we call the urban fabric. Yeah?
And I think the exhibition has really summed up several scales of addressing this. And as urban designers and practitioners, we tend to work at a larger scale. How do you enable a professional practice of urban design to engage with at several scales with the city?
I think this is our job. Even that many times they said, no, your job now, you are being hired to do these 2 blocks. But I don't feel this is what the client or the city tells you. But our is to show perhaps how these 2 blocks fit into, and why the reason these 2 blocks should be twisted, or should be higher, should be lower. We cannot create, even that we can say, well, sometimes some professionals say, no, this is the limit of, that's the boundary of my job. No, the boundary of your job is always the urban context. You have to produce something that can also give answer to the problem of not only that place, but to the city. I think this is quite, I think that should be at the school, but should be also at the real life. I mean, this is.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, and we'll learn more from you in the lecture.
Sure.
Congratulations once again on the fantastic exhibition.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.